Hello, and welcome to another numbersome episode of We Only Look Thin. I am Katherine Weigel. I am one of your hosts. I've lost over 120 pounds and kept it off for over 6 years. I'm a Tiny Habit certified coach, a Thrive Global certified coach. I still think about the scale, and with me today is
Donald Weigel, and I just confirmed that numbersome is in fact a word in the dictionary. Don't look it up, just trust me.
The version's not out yet.
Yeah, it's a revision. It's coming out. Language evolves. Everyone knows that. My name is Donald Weigel. I am one of the hosts of this show. I've lost about 100 pounds. I've kept it off for around 6.5 years. And I still step on scales and have a relationship with a scale that isn't always the best, but sometimes it's good.
Yeah, sometimes it's fine. We've been at this for a number of years now. An undetermined number of years.
Yeah, we're not mathematicians.
And though the scale used to be sort of the center of our galaxy, I think for like most of my life, the number on the scale was kind of like the middle of the universe, and I just sort of rotated around it. But now it's just in like a constellation. It's not the center. We've kind of branched out a little bit, but it's still an issue, huh?
Yeah, it's definitely an issue, and I still use the scale regularly, but I don't always want to use the scale regularly. And we do a lot of episodes. We have done, especially recently, a lot of episodes regarding habit building, and we thought that it would be a good idea to check in on everyone's relationship with the scale and maybe give you a few tips without giving you every single tip that's ever been given regarding relationship with the scale and how to think about it and ways to develop a healthier relationship with it.
Yeah. So this episode, because we always have to insert some sort of ridiculous pop culture reference, this episode is called This Is the Way.
This is the way.
This is the way, which is something that Mandalorians say in Mandalorian.
Yes, in Mandalore Town.
Mandalore Town. But the Mandalorian, baby Grogu, Yoda, super cute, delightful. But the Mandalorians are they're a tribe, right, of people?
You know what? It's really complicated, and I am a big Star Wars guy, but even I don't 100% know all of it. So there's a planet called Mandalore, and technically everyone on that planet is a Mandalorian, but then there's like this almost religious cult almost of Mandalorians who never take their helmets off and always wear the armor. And then there's guys like Boba Fett, who's like a Mandalorian, but he takes his helmet off left and right. He's just like a bounty hunter, like from Mandalore.
Yeah, he does what he wants. But the main guy in the Mandalorian, look, I promise, it all comes together.
Yeah.
They have a code, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
They have a code that they live by. It's sort of like a gremlin code of you never take your helmet off.
Right. Don't feed Grogu after midnight.
You don't feed
him frogs
in front of anyone.
Yeah.
Right. That's one of them. But they have a code that they live by. And so they say this is the way all the time. So this is the way. This is the way of the Weigel.
Yeah, except we're spelling it Weigh.
Because we're hilarious.
Yes.
Because that's what we do.
It's
we
very
come up
true.
with the episode titles first, and then we decide what we're going to talk about. Everyone has their process.
That's right. We make an episode to fit the great title that we have for it. Yeah.
So we make it work. But just as the Mandalorians have a code, we also live by a code regarding the scale. It is a complicated relationship. I know, like we said before, it was the sort of center, end all, be all of sort of the aim of all things was the number on the scale. That was it. That's what we lived by. But in this last time adventure that we have taken you on, it is a single measurement of our overall health in the world. So we're going to give you, after all of these years and our experience, we're going to give you different kind of things to think about, policies to have, ways to weigh about our, I don't know, code. I guess we're not Mandalorians. We're just normal. We're just normal people like you. We're not a sect who wear helmets all the time.
Yeah, this will surprise a lot of people, but we're not space bounty hunters with an alien child that we've adopted.
But you know what? We do put up armor, don't we, Donald?
Oh,
we put up armor so no one can see our true insides.
We wear our own helmets the time to keep the world from seeing our true faces.
Right, but we're going to unmask ourselves now. So we're going to unmask now with 7 different things to talk about. And I guess I'm going with number 1, huh?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
no.
You are.
Okay. I forgot. So it happens to be Friday when we are recording this. It is a Friday.
It's very early on
Earth.
A Friday, as people say in certain parts of the country.
That's my family used to say Friday.
Yeah,
Monday.
Friday. My father also says Friday, Monday, Tuesday.
Okay, so my number 1, and it is fitting that it is a Friday, is to be consistent with weighing yourself. For me, that means every Friday morning, good week, bad week, whatever, just being consistent about weighing myself at the same time of day, wearing the same thing each time. Weighing consistently matters. It is just something. It is the way. It is the way. There, I'll say it. It is the way. Donald, what is the way for you?
Well, I have found that in the past that I would go to extremes. I would be obsessed with stepping on the scale. Sometimes I would step on the scale when I was on some sort of kooky diet. I would step on the scale a couple of different times a day, or maybe even multiple times a day. And just, one time a day, I might be like down 1/10 of a pound, and then I would get on in the afternoon and I'd be up 2/10 of a pound, and then I would get frustrated. And then the other extreme would be when I knew I was not, following, positive habits moving forward, I would just avoid the scale because I didn't want to see the evidence. So I have found that what works best for me is I just have every Saturday morning, I get on the scale and I weigh myself regardless of what's going on. It is grounding because I don't have to think about it. I don't negotiate with myself. It keeps my head in the game, so to speak, where I see what's happening on the scale. I can see the trend of the habits that I am doing at that time. And it keeps me from avoiding, but it also keeps me from obsessing by getting on it too often. It's just that one time and that one time only, and I don't think about it. I don't negotiate. I just do it. And that has really created kind of a healthier relationship for me with it, because it's not about obsessing or about avoiding.
Well, and I think that brings up a really good point about we're collecting data. It's a single set of data in our overall health joint ventures, and getting to the point where we don't use it as a punishment or reward or revenge or whatever. It's just, I gain weight sometimes, I lose weight sometimes. I gained weight 20 times while losing 100 pounds, and being able to have that consistent data over time really helps tell the story of my weight loss. And it is non-linear, but it's important data to collect over time, just like your bank statement, just like the number of hours you work, you're collecting data. So be consistent with that. And, as an aside, if you have a serious issue with the scale, do what's right for you. If you feel like you're really obsessing over it, get some professional support. But for us, we have learned to just show up for the scale, use the data, and move forward.
Yeah. And that brings us to the next point, which is to always remember that the number on the scale is a single measurement of our past habits. It does not indicate our future potential.
Exactly.
It's a lagging indicator of what we have done thus far. It doesn't mean, if you get on the scale and it's not where you want it to be, it doesn't mean that you're broken. It doesn't mean that you can't get it together and get it to a place where you want it. It is just a reflection of the habits that you have in place at a particular time.
Well, and it's like a report card. Goodness knows, I know I married Jimmy Von A plus Chinson.
Yes,
I don't know what
that was my name before I went into witness protection program. I can't even repeat what you just said.
I can't either.
Jimmy Von A plus and Chinson. Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to read handwriting on a report card.
Right.
But getting a report card, sure, you might have some A's in there, some B's, maybe some needs, some work. And it can feel defeating when you get on the scale and you're sort of confronted with your past decisions. Coming back from vacation, maybe you overate, maybe you've had a bad week. It shows what you've done in the past. It does not tell you what your future potential is. It is sort of like, and with report card, you get report cards. You don't just get it at the end of the year where you're like, all right, now you're going to see if you go to the next grade.
Right.
It is to give you little touch points throughout the semester, throughout the year of how you're doing so far tracking to the material. And it gives you the opportunity to decide what you want to change. So for me, seeing it as like, okay, this is where I am right now. I'm going to move forward, and not feeling like I'm being punished by it or that, it's like some moral failing, I think is a big thing. It's just capturing data from past choices, not future potential.
Yes, absolutely.
And that sort of factors into number 3, which is it's just one factor. And I don't like tie my self-worth to the number like I think I used to. I really rely so much more heavily now on the habits that produce the number. Like, are the habits making me feel good? And I mean, we talked about this a little bit last night as normal human people about like, maybe the number on the scale isn't where I want it to be, but like I went to the pool, the rec center the other day and went swimming and felt really good because I was being active. And like, sure, the number isn't where I want it to be, but the habits that I'm doing right now feel really good. I'm drinking lots of water. I'm eating lots of salads. I'm getting in activity before it gets hot. Like, I feel good about myself. And that number on the scale isn't a reflection of my entire life. It's just a single data point.
Yeah, and I used to value myself based on whatever that number on the scale was. If I was below a certain weight, I was a good person. If I was above a certain weight, I was a bad person, which is obviously an unhealthy way to look at it. But realizing that it is just one factor in my health, and realizing that it's much more important how I feel and how I move, and that I'm moving in the right direction than it is what that actual number is.
Well, and I think it comes through in our personality as well, because I had a really good day, let's say on Wednesday, when I went to the pool and I was like feeling really good about myself. And sure, again, the number wasn't great, but it's like no one would look at me. Like, I didn't come home and you didn't go like, oh, wow, you look so XYZ weight today.
Right.
Like, you're like, oh, like, wow, did you have a good swim? You look really happy. Like, how'd that go? Like, we don't look at each other as numbers. We see ourselves as the feelings that we have. That's what humans do, is they see feelings. And if you feel good about your habits, the weight will follow. So that is sort of where I go from that.
Absolutely. All right. So the next thing that we have to keep in mind,
this is a big one,
that Catherine and I have to remind ourselves of even now, is that the scale is not always fair.
Right.
Sometimes you've had a great week, and the scale does not always reflect your efforts. And, what I would do in the past is I would work really hard for a particular, week, and then I would get on the scale and I maybe didn't lose any weight, or maybe I would even have gained some weight that week. And I would then just throw up my hands and go, why am I bothering to work this hard if the scale isn't going to show it?
That is huge. If all you're doing is showing up because of wanting that validation on the scale, I cannot tell you how many times I just rage quit and then gained 10 pounds as revenge because a single data point didn't go my way.
Yeah, that attitude would lead to self-sabotage like all the time. Like, I would just throw up my hands, give up, and then, not continue on, because why bother? And realizing that it's not about 1 week, and sometimes the scale doesn't move. But if you keep doing that for another week and another week, eventually it starts moving in the direction that you want it to go in. And then the other side of that is, sometimes I would have a week that was just full of indulgences and not moving. And then I would get on the scale, and maybe I would even lose a little bit of weight in that situation. And I would feel like I got away with something. And I would then think, well, maybe I'm invincible.
Oh my gosh, I should eat like this all the time. No, but I've totally done that, where like you feel like you've gotten away with something, or like my metabolism is fixed. It turns out that eating like a pile of French fries is like, that's actually the secret to my weight loss.
And then I would just, I would use that, and I would ride the wave. So I would ride the snake, and keep eating in that fashion. And then eventually the scale would catch up with me, usually pretty quickly, and it would just come, weight would come roaring on to me, because I thought, oh, well, maybe I'm fixed at this point.
Well, and I think too, I think we've made this analogy before of like, sometimes you roll a stop sign and you get a ticket, and other times you don't and you get away with it, and then suddenly like, oh, well, I guess I just get away with stuff now. It's fine.
Right.
And if you were just doing the habits to get away with stuff, that's not really a great sense of identity.
Yeah. So in other words, I have to remind myself, we have to remind ourselves that we're not doing these habits just for the number on the scale. It's not really just about what we weigh. It's a lot more than that. And in fact, the main focus is more about how I feel and my ability to continue to move as I get older. I'm going to be 55 later this year, and looking at people who are older than me, I want to be able to continue to move the way I move. I want to be able to continue to climb stairs the way I can. I want to be able to continue to, bring multiple bags of groceries upstairs. I want to be able to continue to, as we talked about last episode, continue to walk upstairs when I'm on vacation. I want to be able to continue to do lots of walking when I'm exploring things. I just want to be able to move well in my normal life, and that is much more important to me than the number on the scale moving forward.
Well, and I think also for me on the food side of things, eating food that doesn't make me feel sick or bloated or have terrible heartburn, like those are, I mean, I know it's like there aren't heartburn metrics per se, but
right.
I know when I eat in a way that makes me feel sick, like that is a very good reminder to me of like, oh, I do much better when I stick to healthier foods, when I reduce my sugar, when I reduce my alcohol, when I reduce carbs.
Yeah.
Not saying cutting everything out, but it's not, like Donald said, just the number on the scale. It's how I actually feel that matters the most. And that can change over time, which sort of takes us to our next point on our list of like focusing on our identities as healthy, active, fit people. Like that is, it's kind of ambiguous because sure, it's like, oh, well, I want my BMI to be this, or I want, these like specific things, but you don't look at someone and say like, oh, wow, you look so average BMI today.
That's right.
It's like what you notice, and we talked about this on recent episodes, like the convenience episodes of like, what do you notice to be true about us? You notice that we're always out walking in the morning. We have gear around us to engage in fitness. We keep lots of fruits and vegetables in the house. We like exploring. We like walking places. That's what is noticeable sort of as our lifestyle. No matter what our weight is, up or down the scale, we are still active people. I just got back from vacation, and seeing how other people move or don't move was a very big practical wake-up call, sort of like Donald was saying just before about like, I really need to maintain my mobility. Like nobody's carrying my luggage. Like, I need to do this for myself. I need to be able to navigate. I need to stay nimble and quick-footed.
Yeah, like I want to be able to lift my own luggage into the overhead. Like,
oh my gosh.
Well into my, I hate to say old age, but I don't know what else to say. Dotage? I don't know if that's a thing either, but yeah, I want to be able to lift my own luggage and not have to rely on somebody else. Like, I want to like stay that strong and capable.
Well, and I think part of that identity thing too is that like the having a growth mindset, being positive, being active, looking for new solutions, all of that, like the number on the scale is going to change, but my outlook and my excitement about like exploring and living my best life matters. And I'm like, frankly, everybody, just letting you know, in perimenopause, like life changes. The number changes. Like my habits have changed a little bit, but I do know that focusing on healthy habits helps me feel my best. And that is the most important thing, just focusing on that identity as an active person who loves, apparently this is the summer of the swim, because I am swimming up the summer. So.
Yeah, that makes one of us. Whenever you, I'm not a big like swimming fan personally. I like frolicking in a pool. If you can imagine me frolicking, but whenever you mention perimenopause, I think of Perry Mason.
Oh, okay.
And so I think of like perimenopause, PERRY menopause, as like a lawyer who like solves crimes.
Crimes. Sure. You know a lot about feminometry.
Yeah, I studied feminometry in school.
I've never seen it, but my aunt tells me that my grandfather wrote a short, I don't know if it was a short book or some sort of paper called The Axioms of Feminometry about how to deal with women. And I don't know if that is a true thing.
I would pay real money to see that.
The Axioms of Feminometry. And I don't know if it is real. And I know, like, depending on who you talk to in any family, things are true or not true. But I might, like...
Oh, I bet that's magically terrible. If it exists, I bet it's just absolutely awful and wonderful.
It basically was the first mansplain book, I think. So, Axioms of Feminometry, everybody.
Oh, that's good stuff.
You heard it here first.
We need to unearth that and have it published.
I wonder if I should ask my dad or if he'll just be mad.
Yeah, maybe he will.
Okay, so.
Any hoodle. I just wanted to, put a bow on that last one and say, like, I still use the scale. I think it is important to not avoid the scale. I need the scale to kind of keep me honest and to let me know where my habits are taking me. But it is far more important to me that I maintain my identity as a fit and active person. And I spent most of my life thinking of myself as like leaning in hard to the idea that I was a couch potato.
Oh my gosh.
So that much. I was just, I was not a fit active person. Oh, those fit active people, they're those losers over there. Like, who wants to be that? Like, I am a couch potato who sits. And now I lean heavily into my identity as I am somebody who parks far away and walks. I actually, not to digress too hard, I had a conversation with my my boss at work. We have a parking garage that's it is in the basement or underground, the building that we work in, and then there's another parking garage that's across the street. And I started parking at the garage across the street, and I was sort of extolling the benefits of it to my boss. I was like, I can see the sunlight in that one. I get this walk in the morning. I get a walk at the end of the day, and it really sort of, helps me unwind. It helps me ease into the day. I'm getting more steps and getting exercise. And she says, that all sounds great. I'm not doing it though. She's like, I don't like to walk. So anyway, I really like the fact that I'm on the side of getting movement in at this point.
And I will see that walk, and I will raise you. I'm just going to keep swim.
Because marriage is all about one-upsmanship.
One-upsmanship.
Yeah.
And when I went to the pool the other day, I was a little bit nervous because I'm like, oh, everybody else belongs here. Like they're swimmers, whatever. And seeing people of all shapes and abilities and sizes and ages, like we are all swimmers. And I suddenly felt this like kinship of like, and this was from, there's a group called This Girl Can. It's a website that focuses on female activity, feminometry, the axioms of it. But like they had a thing recently, like every body is a swimmer's body. And it really kind of filled me with this, like, I deserve to be here. I am part of a fellowship of swimmers. And it actually made me feel really happy to know that I was just like along other people who were faster than me, older than me, like slower than me, whatever. And just being there together, I think it just felt really good as like that identity of like, I am an active person, and that doesn't have anything to do with the number on the scale, but rather what I show up as every day. So it made me feel very good. So.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's great. And I think I should also mention, for those in the Los Angeles area, Axioms of Feminometry are also playing the Troubadour this coming weekend. Okay, sorry. The next thing that we have to constantly remind ourselves
and opening up for them are the groaners.
Listen, these are the jokes. I'm a dad. I'm also an uncle. This is the sort of joke that you get from me.
This is the way.
This is the way. There's a class that we all have to go to in order to be able to really like come up with these sorts of zingers. Yeah. Okay, so the next thing that we have to remind ourselves about to maintain our healthy relationship with the scale is that I am not going to stay one magical weight.
Yeah.
It is not, I think I was under this impression most of my life that I would hit a number and then I would just be that one particular number. And part of adjusting to the idea that there is no finish line, that this health and fitness journey is never really over, is the idea that I'm going to be in a weight range depending on the season that I'm in. We just did a vacation and trips episode. Maybe right after I get back from a vacation, I'm going to be at the higher end of that range. Maybe, in the summertime when I'm being a lot more active, maybe I will be at the lower end of that range. Maybe around the holidays, Christmas time, I'm going to be at the higher end of that range. And it's not one magical number that I stick to and I just stay there. There isn't a particular exact weight that I'm in. It's really like a fairly large range up and down the scale that I stay in, and getting comfortable with that idea and knowing that, oh, well, this is the season that I'm in right now, and being able to move forward and sticking to my habits has been a really a crucial key in maintaining long-term success.
Well, and I think, that's a really good point. And I think that that's something that's really changed from when we first started the podcast, where it was sort of like I hit my goal number, I went below that, and it felt like, okay, so this is my set and forget, right. 1 or 2 pounds, which for me is just not realistic. And my range has changed. I'm still like, part of maintaining is maintaining habits. Like that is part of what maintenance is maintaining habits. And for me, having, I started this journey venture when I was 41. I am 49 now. My hormonal situation is totally different. Like our different seasons of our lives have changed. But again, knowing that there is that range in there, and it's like Donald said, it's a fairly large range. And it really helps me just sort of refocus on my habits, because my habits really determine my weight. I am personally coming out of a very difficult season of my life. Like the last 6 months have been super tough with lots of different things going on, which maybe we'll talk about at some point.
Yeah.
But for me, I am at a very high end of my comfortable weight range, but I feel like I am transitioning out of that season right now. Our teen just finished high school.
Hallelujah.
we were driving cumulatively 60 miles a day for school, and that is over. And I do not know what it's like to not have to be in the car for hours a day. Super duper excited. So I am entering a new phase where I might be able to, and this is my goal, be able to go back down the scale a bit because that season is behind me. And no matter what the number is, again, returning to that identity as an active person, someone with a growth mindset, someone who focuses on, eating foods that make me feel good, I think is just super important. So the seasons change and the numbers change, and it's not a value judgment. So I think that has been a very big thing to learn about this. That is I think is very helpful to keep working on it instead of just saying like, well, we got to drive 60 miles a day now. Guess I can't manage my health goals anymore, and I'm going to gain 150 pounds back. Like, that's not where my head is. So
yeah, or more to the, more specifically about stepping on the scale. It's not about, realizing like I'm not at my lowest weight anymore. Oh my goodness, I must be broken. And then, giving up to a point where then you're up even higher and higher and higher, realizing that you're going to be in this range and it's going to be okay. And you will go back down it, when a different phase of your life comes along, as long as you keep going and keep doing the habits and don't give up.
Well, and things happen, like injuries happen, sicknesses happen, like circumstances change. And it's not oh no, this is just proof that I'm broken. It's like, okay, this is the season that I'm in, and seasons will change, won't they, Donald?
They certainly will, just as the song says.
The seasons will change.
The seasons will change. That famous song.
The famous song.
Yeah.
By the Seasons Will Change Band.
The Seasons Will Change Band. The Axioms of Feminometry. Their big hit. The Seasons Will Change.
Okay.
All right. So bring us home. What is the final thing that we have to remind ourselves of this deep into weight loss and fitness during venture?
Okay. So the last one, and maybe the biggest one for me, is knowing that when I'm avoiding the scale, like that is a huge red flag. That is one of those cornerstone habits. I mean, we started with, consistency in weighing in is really important. That's one of those things that are like, check the engine light. If I am avoiding the scale, it is not because I'm out living my best life. Like if I'm like, just weigh in next week, it'll be fine. Oh, you know what? This month isn't a great month to weigh in. That is a sign that my habits are eroding, that I may be trying to avoid that report card.
Yeah.
That I just don't want to know. And I'm like, I can make it up. Like I'll get better next week. It'll be fine. The longer I go without weighing, guess what? The more weight I gain.
Yeah.
Like that is me trying to avoid taking responsibility for my habits. That check-in is super critical. Even after all of these years, when I stop doing the habits, I gain weight. So if I'm avoiding the scale,
right,
what I'm really avoiding is myself.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought I was going to make some like back to school special, after school special, and the real problem is me.
The real problem is the person in the mirror. Yeah, no, and I do this too when I'm really trying to avoid reality, because I know that when I step on the scale and I see the actual number, it can be very sobering. And I will oftentimes say to myself, okay, that's it. I've been having, too much of a good time, so to speak, with going off my habits, too many indulgences. And I don't want to see that reality, which is part of why I consistently try and make myself get on the scale every week. And when I don't do that, when I decide to skip, that is a huge indicator that I need to get myself back onto my habits.
Yeah, and I think as I think of it, the scale, like usually there are like buddy cop movies, or like even in, let's say, The Mandalorian. Mando has his little chum Grogu.
Yeah.
That his little friend sidekick, they pal around together. So the scale's chummo that the scale hangs out with is stretchy pants. If I'm avoiding the scale,
right.
I'm moving towards stretchy pants because I don't want to feel like I'm like, the stretchy pants will give me freedom to not pay attention. So form-fitting clothes, getting on the scale, those are things. I know it's like a weird way to end, but what are you going to do? But if I'm like really avoiding the scale, like tweet, that is a red bird. No, that's a canary, not a red. Okay, it's a red flag. Red flag. Bird.
A red bird.
A red bird.
Yes. Yes, a canary in a coal mine, a red bird, all of those things, Pac-Man fever, etc.
Exactly. Okay, so again, I'm going to go through these super duper quickly. 1, be consistent with getting on the scale. The scale is a measurement of past behavior, not future potential. The weight is just one factor. What we're doing with our habits really matters the most. The scale isn't always fair. It's not going to play by the rules, man.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're the windshield, sometimes you're the bug.
The scale doesn't care about your feelings.
It does not.
Just measures your weight.
Yep, it's like the Terminator.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, so we also want to focus on our identities as healthy, fit, active people, and the scale will follow that. We're not always going to be one magical weight, you guys. Y'all, friends, friendos, compadres, it's not going to happen. It's going to change with the seasons, and that's okay. And then if you are avoiding the scale and leaning towards stretchy things, that might be a red flag. Bird.
Yeah, well, I don't think it might be. That is a huge red flag.
It is a red flag. So does any of this resonate with you? What do you feel about the scale? Are any of these things resonating with you? What can you take away? So many questions for the end of an episode. But the scale really is an important part of our Journ Ventures. It is still with us after all of these years. And it is one measurement in a whole constellation of habits and behaviors that we have in place. But it's a handy little tool. So use it.
Yes, indeed. And also a handy little tool is this podcast.
Whoopee!
There, see what I did there? That was a very professional segue. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We have 339 other episodes that you can also listen to, enjoy, get useful information out of, and hopefully a couple of chuckles here and there. You can find them all wherever you find podcasts. We are on all the major podcast platforms. The most recent 300 episodes are all available on all the major podcast platforms. That is as many as those podcast platforms will allow us to make available there. So if you would like to find all of the episodes to go back to number 1, you can do that on YouTube. Or you can find them all anytime on our website at weonlylookthin.com.
Yep, and if you are at weonlylookthin.com, click on that link for Join Our Support Group to find out more about Wolt Place. We Only Look Thin Place is our Facebook-based accountability group for women. We are not a weight loss plan, but we are a place for fellowship and accountability. I do weekly Zoom meetings. We actually did a great Zoom meeting all about managing expectations on the scale. So we do deep dives into that. We actually have a subgroup called Way to Go, spelled with a fun way.
Yeah.
Get it?
You should change it to This Is the Way.
Yeah. Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks for mansplaining feminometry.
Nerd-splaining it, yeah. Here, I've got a book for you.
But you know what? If I am not posting in Way to Go, that might mean that I am avoiding the scale. So that is a good way to check in. We have weekly Zoom meetings. I said that. We've got subgroups, lots of ways to stay accountable and check in. Showing up for yourself and being there for others is just, for me, it's been a great way to stay connected to my healthy habits. So I use Wolt Place just as much as you might. We have 2 subscription options, a monthly subscription with a 3-day complimentary trial and a 3-month subscription with a 7-day complimentary trial to see if Wolt Place is right for you. And the reason we have it as a women-only group, it is only because we've had a few guys in the group sort of back in the early days, and it just didn't feel even Steven. If it was like a 50-50 of everybody jumping in at once, but it just sort of felt like the guys didn't really participate, and maybe women were a little more self-conscious about talking about body issues. So that's the only reason. I love guys, don't I, Donald? Love guys. Can't get enough of guys.
Wait a minute. Let's dial that back about 10%.
No, but like anyway, someone at one point was like, only women. Wow. Like, it was like, look, there's not some agenda.
Yeah.
There's not some big Walt agenda.
Plus, I feel like guys, like, I know myself, like, I don't feel like we're big participators in that sort of thing.
Yeah, there are other groups that might, but just in the Walt world, it just was uneven, Stephen. So this is the way with Walt Place is for ladies.
It certainly is.
And Donald doesn't participate. It's all me. So that's all I have to say about Walt Place. What do you have to say, Donald?
I have to say that I think that, having direct access to you is really an invaluable tool. And those Zooms, like, I can't even imagine if I had access to that while I was trying to do this. I mean, we sort of had to learn all of this along the way, but I think the benefit of having access to you is a really huge benefit to Walt Place. So go ahead and check it out. I think that you will enjoy it.
Yep.
Also, if you'd like to interact with us in other ways, you can find us on social media. We are at We Only Look Thin on Facebook and Instagram. And you can also send us an email. We would appreciate episode suggestions. We like compliments. We will do our best to answer your questions. And if you want to do any of those things, you can email us to weonlylookthin@gmail.com.
Yep. And if you have a couple of extra minutes, could you do us a favor and head on over to Apple Podcasts, leave us a rating and a review. Not only does it let us know that what we're doing after all of these years is still connecting with new members, like we get new lovely posts often from people who have just started listening to us. So thank you so much for taking the time to let us know that you're new and you're listening. Not only does it let us know that what we're doing matters after all of these years, but it also boosts our ratings on Apple Podcasts, and it helps other people find our podcast. So you're doing the world a favor.
Yeah, those 5-star reviews really help other people find the show, because Apple, the more that you have, the more likely your podcast is to come up in search results when people are looking for health and fitness podcasts. So we would be grateful if you would just drop us 5 stars. Also, if you could tell somebody about the show, that would really help us out. Word of mouth is another great way that helps the show grow. We would really be grateful if you know somebody who might get something out of it and you're in a conversation. You could just drop our show. That would be cool. Or if you're online, if you're in a Reddit group, a Discord server, or a Facebook group, related to health and fitness, or maybe it's just related to Star Wars, and you're talking about The Mandalorian, you could give us a shout out on the internet. We would really appreciate it. It really helps the show grow.
It sure does.
So if you need to hire a space bounty hunter, hire The Mandalorian. If you need to hire a lawyer to to get you off of a murder charge and solve the crime, hire Perimenopause.
Oh my gosh.
But if you are looking to achieve health and fitness goals,
oh gosh, make it end.
Just remember that Catherine and I are an inspiration.
Woo!
The information that you hear on this podcast is for informational purposes only. The hosts are not medical professionals. You should always consult with your doctor, nurse, or other certified health professional before beginning any diet or fitness program.